Yo, 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 what the deal? It's your boy X.E.L.O. Welcome back to the channel, y'all. Thank you for coming back. But if you are new here, definitely like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, and I'll let you know when I drop another video. If you are here for beats, I have a link below. It's called Beats You Need. Or you can just go directly to my website. It's going to be XELOHH.com. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Man, I missed you guys, man. So I decided what I wanted to do was actually help you guys out, especially for the beginners, the guys who have just cracked open Cakewalk. You're looking for how to actually use the DAW. This is a beginner's course in the piano roll. I think this is one of the most important pieces of Cakewalk. So let's get right into it and get started. All right, so here we are in Cakewalk, and this is usually how your stuff will actually start inside of Cakewalk. So let's say that you're just starting out, just open up Cakewalk, you'll see this option here. We're gonna click on where it says empty project. This is my dark theme. If you are interested in this theme or my light theme, the link is below in the description, and I also have a video showing you how to install themes as well. So usually the first thing you wanna do is actually make some space. So I want to show you how to maximize the space that you currently have on your screen. So on this left-hand side, this is called the inspector pane. If you hit I on your keyboard, it'll actually minimize this section here. But there's also a button up here that says collapse. So I'm gonna hit on this collapse button because it's a lot easier than trying to remember I to do this. And on this side is the browser, and there's a little collapse button over here too. So I want to collapse that as well. I'm actually going to remove my face off of here so that it'll be a lot easier to kind of focus on the screen parts. Now, what we want to do is actually find or set up an instrument. And in this section over here, this is like the track pane. If you right click over here, it'll give me an option on here that says insert instrument. So if I click on that, it'll bring up a little dialog box up here, and it'll be in the instruments section. So this plus sign is the same thing as doing the right click. So you can hit this plus sign, go to instruments, and I'm going to use this default TTS. If you want to follow along with me, that's perfectly fine. So let's do that. I'm going to hit create. I want to actually create two of them. So I'm going to do two, right? Hit create, and it's actually going to create two instances of the TTS one. But let's add some more instruments. Let's go in here, and I'm going to add another instrument. Let's go down to the S1 string section. So if you don't see it in this little spot here and you're just new to it, if you downloaded all of the attachments for Cakewalk, you will actually have this SI string section, and we're going to use that. And let's do one more. Let's do the bass. So I'm gonna scroll down here to where it says bass, and you should have this SI bass on your Cakewalk as well. Let's hit create. All right, so now we have 4 instruments here. All right, so I want to do one more thing. I want to show you about the audio. A lot of people may ask, hey man, if I drag my audio into the piano roll, will it play? And I'm going to tell you definitively, no, it will not play. Cakewalk does not have a sampler to actually get it to run inside the piano roll. So you will have to download a sampler. I have several samplers on my list of videos. I use Satilla and I use Complete Control a lot. So those are the two that I kind of use to make sure I can add any kind of sample inside of Cakewalk. But to each his own, you can choose your own. So I'm gonna go over here to this right-hand side, and I'm gonna hit this expand button. And what I want to do is go to this media section. I just want to make sure I give you like at least one example of what's gonna happen. So I'm gonna grab this clap and I'm gonna drag it over here. As you see, it made its own little like wave file. And if I hit play, it'll play this clip. Since we're actually in this section here still, I'm just gonna add a Midi. All right, I'm just gonna grab a Midi and put it in here. It's gonna go over the piano, and it's just a simple Midi chord. We're gonna use that for an example and to get everything going. So I'm gonna collapse this section here again. So now I still have all my real estate, and you're asking, all right, how do I pull up the piano roll? So there's several ways to do it. So I'm gonna go up here to views, click on this, and we're gonna go And then you can click on piano roll view to bring it up. That's one way. Or you can hit Alt and 3 on your keyboard if you're a shortcut guy like me. I like to use the shortcuts. The other way would be if you didn't have this MIDI here, you can actually right click on this little section and it'll give you an option that says view, and it'll give you an option that says piano roll view. Or you can see, once again, it has the Alt 3. So if you right click on the actual wave, or the actually MIDI that's actually there, you can actually go into view here as well and click on piano roll view that way. If you didn't have anything here, you wanted to get to the piano roll, you can just double click. And as you see, it pops up the piano roll at the bottom. And you can actually move the piano roll around. You can make it taller. You can make it shorter. You can dock it and undock it. If you go down here to the right-hand side, it gives you an option that says undock. All right, and my piano roll is gone to my other screen. So here is the piano roll, and I can make it taller. I can make it the full screen, right? And if I actually close this out and I wanted to bring it back, I can hit Alt and the number 3 on my keyboard, and boom, I have my piano roll back once again. So let me bring it back to the dock. So I'm gonna hit on this where it says dock at bottom, this little option here. And it is back on the bottom once again, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so now that we have it in this view here, at the bottom, if you want to bring it full screen, you can hit Shift and D on your keyboard and it'll bring up the whole entire piano roll. So now that we're actually in the piano roll, let's go over the tabs here on the top left. So let's go over views. All right, and this view has 7 sections. It has an articulation section, which we're not going to cover. It has a drum pane section, which we're not going to cover. It has a track pane, which shows on the other side. This section over here will show the track pane. So let's say I click on this button or click on this one, it's going to actually show the track pane. And this is what popped up over here on this side. All right. So I'm going to hide it for right now. All right. The next option would be the controller pane. And this is this section down here. This is the controller pane. So as you see, it shows a show hide controller pane down here. So this is where the controller pane is located. All right. All right. And we're going to do the fit to MIDI content, and we're going to show the MIDI microscope. So I'm going to show you how that actually looks. So let's set that up. All right. So let's say I had this and it looks really small, as you can see here. I'm going to actually go over here to the right-hand side and expand this. And I'm going to go to the first one where I dropped that MIDI. As you see, here's the MIDI right here. All right, so let's go back into view and we're going to go and hit on fit MIDI content. And as you see, it made it enlarged. So you can actually see all the pieces that you actually have here. So if you had a really long MIDI piece and you hit that, it'll make everything fit to the screen. All right, so let's say that we had the screen like this and we had a whole bunch of MIDI. You can scroll over it with this MIDI microscope and kind of see the keys and where they are and do whatever you want to do with them. I don't really see people using this, but it is an option in there. That's why I just wanted to show it really quickly. And we're not going to do that. We're going to take that off. All right, let me stretch this back out so it makes more sense to see everything. And the way I'm actually doing that is holding down the Alt key on my keyboard. And if I scroll back, it goes in. If I go out, it goes out. I'm just scrolling that way. You can also do this by holding down Control and using the arrows, your left and right arrows, to zoom in and zoom out. And if you go up and down, it'll zoom completely in, and the down arrow will zoom in, I guess, and this zooms out. I guess that's how you say it. I'm sorry. All right. So, and that's holding down Control and using your arrows on the keyboard itself. All right, so let's move along. And the next option would show clip outlines. And basically this is just going to put like a tent around the section of the MIDI that's already there. So if I click on it, as you see, it brought like this little tent over the MIDI itself. I guess it could be helpful for something. I don't know what, but it's an option that's actually there. And to hide muted clips will actually, if it had anything that's actually in here that was muted, I could actually hide that clip in here as well. All right, so show vertical grid lines are these little lines that are inside of the grid. So right now the grid I'm using is the 1/16th, as you see up here toward the right. This 1/16th is the grid I'm on. So if I uncheck these vertical lines, you see those lines are now gone. All right, so I like to have that one on. And the next thing on the list would be grid resolution. So you can set your resolution to whatever you want to. I like to follow the snap settings because it's easier to get to this snap setting up here than it is to go to views, then go down to grid resolution and then choose whatever you're going to choose for your grid. I just think it's easier to just to follow the snap, and it'll follow this snap for the piano roll. Well, let's say you clicked on this, right? And it's off now. It's going to follow whatever this is up here for your grid. It'll follow this snap to grid up here. All right. All right, so the next option over here would be notes. And I leave on the show notes so you'll see the notes itself. And show note names, which is showing that this is an A, this is an E, this is a C. That's showing the note name. All right, and showing notes would actually just show the notes itself. All right, so this other section here is not covered because this is the drum grid stuff. So this show vertical on selected notes only will give you the velocities and stuff down here and in the controller pane down here. So I like to leave it on velocities on selected notes only. So if I select a note, it'll actually just show that one note down here. Whereas if you go to notes and you turn it off, it'll show all the notes as you see down here. All the notes are showing. All right, so I like to leave this on. And moving on to controllers, we're not going to discuss because we don't have a controller set up. All right, and tracks is also this over here. This is the tracks section over here, or tracks pane, I should say. And this select tracks, clear track section, and invert track section is the same thing if you right click. So where this number 1 is, if I right click on here, it gives me that same option to select, clear, and invert. So that's what those are for. So we talked a little bit about the snap to grid, which is right here. So we can change your snap if you right click on it. You can do a snap to or a snap by. You can change your resolution to like the 1/8 if you wanted to. You can do 132. You can do all the way up to 1/28 triplet or 132 dotted, but I'm just gonna leave it on 1/16 because I feel the most comfortable with 1/16. All right, so let's go back here to, this is the note length. So right now it's on whole note. So if I actually was to make a note, it would be a whole note. This one will set it on half notes. And as you see, it's actually changing up here as well, because this is the smart tool. The smart tool is basically what's actually making these notes. When I change them here, they'll actually change the note values as well. So you have a whole, half, 1/4, 1/8, 1/16, 132, a triplet, and a dotted notes. So all of these notes can be actually done and set up. You always want to start with your smart tool and know that you're on the smart tool. This is probably one of the only tools you really need, especially as a beginner. This is a select tool, which can also be done with the smart tool. The move tool can be done with the smart tool. The edit tool can be done with the smart tool. This draw freehand is the only one that you may actually need. And even this like erase and mute can be done with the smart tool. This tool, this draw freehand tool, and this smart tool are the only ones I would say that you really need piano roll view is concerned in Cakewalk. Now that I'm here in the piano roll, if I actually hit the T key on my keyboard, it'll actually bring up this same smart tool. But let's put it on this, the draw tool, right? So if I click down here and I drag, if I click and drag, you see it just made notes for 1/16. These are all 1/16 notes, and it's gonna follow that grid. And these are on 130, these are 132 length and on 1/16 notes. So if you needed to actually do that, to draw out like that, that would be the tool you wanna use. So I'm gonna hit the T on my keyboard. I'm gonna go back to my smart tool. Now I wanna actually show you how to actually just place a regular note inside the piano roll. All right, so seeing that we want to actually just make a note, I'm going to make it a half of a bar to make it a little easier for you to see. So I'm just going to double click in this section right here. And as you see, it made a note. So if you double click, it will make a note. I double click over here, it'll make a note. But if you've noticed, this playhead actually moved when I double click. So anytime you double click, the playhead will actually move. And a lot of people don't necessarily like that option when it actually does that. So the alternative would be to hold down the Alt key on your keyboard and then click in the notes. And that will actually make the note. And as you see, the playhead is not moving. All right. And the third way to actually do it is just to click and then drag, and it'll actually make a note. So if you click and then drag, it'll make that note. If you click and drag too much, it'll actually change the size of the note. So if I wanted to change the size, I can just keep dragging across, and as you see, it made a new length. And I can make this whatever length I want to, up to that second bar. And I'm just still holding down the mouse click, and I can set it any way I want. So I can just grab. All right. So that's 3 ways to actually add notes in here as well. All right. So now let's say I wanted to highlight these notes to erase them. You can usually use this tool here, the select tool, but you can just also right click and then drag, and you see the little blue box that pops up. This box is the same thing as using this select tool. And I can just hit on delete now, and it'll delete those notes. I'm going to hit Control Z to bring them back. All right, so let's say that you wanted to do, let's say you had a whole bunch of MIDI and it was all the way across your whole entire track, and you wanted to get rid of these notes, like you never wanted to use them. You can actually click on the piano and drag down like so, and it'll highlight all those notes as well. And as you see, it brings it down here into the piano roll, or should I say the velocity view as well. And I can just hit delete, and it'll delete those notes as well that way. So the third way would be to actually go to this move tool, or you can actually go to the erase tool if you want to. So if you want to hit the erase tool, you can do that. But if you right click when the move tool is over the actual note, there is the eraser key right there. So I can just erase this note if I want to. So let's let go of the button, and it erases. Right click, you see the erase tool, let go, and it erases. If you want to do multiple, you can right click and you can just go across. Whatever this eraser touches is going to erase as soon as I let go of the mouse button. So if I let it go here, those will erase. All right. So those are different ways to actually erase inside Cakewalk Piano Roll. All right. So let's say you wanted to move this note right here. You see the little tool or the icon that actually pops up in here is the move icon. So I can grab this and move the key wherever I want to move it. All right, so let's say you wanted to actually copy this note right here. So I can hold down Control, and you see if I move and I have a little plus sign, you see that little plus sign there? That means that it's gonna copy that exact note, and I can move it to wherever I want to. So I can grab this, move it up, and now I have 2 of those notes. If I want to do that again, I'm holding down Control on my keyboard and just scrolling over it, and now I have the little plus sign. And now I have another key. So I'm just going to right click and delete this one. And I'm going to delete this one as well. So let's say I wanted to stretch this note right here. So I clicked on this note, and now I have this little icon at the end here. That'll give me an option to stretch out or stretch in. And it also works on the front as well. So that's another way to actually stretch. And let's say you wanted to slice this note up. I can actually hold down my Alt key, and it'll bring up my little scissors option here, and I can click on this and it'll cut right there with the scissors. So let's say I wanted to actually add slices like somewhere in here without actually having to use the Alt and then actually cut, right? So let's say I wanted to slice here, right? If I wanted to slice here, my playhead is here. If I hit S on my keyboard, it'll slice in that section. And let's say I want to slice here, it will have to just be highlighted. Just make sure your section is highlighted, and you'll be able to slice anything that's under that section. Because if it's not highlighted, it does not slice. So it has to be highlighted, and it'll allow you to actually slice in that area. All right. So that's another way to actually slice and cut up the beats. It's going to do a whole bunch of Control Z's to get it back to where it was. All right. So let's say we wanted to make every single note this length here, the same length as this. I'm going to highlight all of them by right clicking, grabbing all of them. And I'm going to hold down my Shift key on the keyboard. And I have this little icon there. And now all of them will go to that same exact length. No matter which, as long as it's highlighted, it's going to actually make those the same length. As you can see, I can stretch it out. I can make it small, I can make it long, and they still keep their same position, but there's just the length of it will be whatever I change it to. Right? So let's say we wanted to use Control and do that same thing. As you see a little stretch mark arrow now, it has a little stretch arrow. So now it'll actually move the position of the actual MIDI. And you can stretch it out. Let's say we go to the, what is that? Because right now we were on 4 bars. If we go to 8 bars, which it is now, as you see, it is like in the perfect position. We just basically just moved it by using this arrow at the end and then holding down the Control, and you see it has a stretch arrow on here now. And you can just bring it back and just have it on to the 4 bars. And boom, now we have 4 bars. All right, so let me just do some real quick editing here. I'm just gonna kind of cut up some stuff. So these 4 are now cut up. And you see now they are down here in this velocity section. And if you scroll over them, you'll see an icon like this that has like the little bars on it. If you click, it'll give you an option to lower or raise the volume of that actual MIDI itself. All right. Or you can just go right down here and drag the MIDI down or up. But let me show you some cool stuff. All right. So if you scroll over here and you hold down Control, you'll have a new icon. So this icon is like almost like a leveler. If you click and drag down, it'll make like a slope going down. If you grab up, it'll make a slope going up. So it just matters which side you're actually on to actually do that slope. And that's holding down Control and getting that new icon there. All right. Another cool thing is, let's say you wanted to actually just kind of slice all through the MIDI and have it however you want to. If you just click in an open area, and this is why I like to have my notes and it is show the velocity of the selected notes only. So if I only select these notes, these are the only ones that's going to be affected. So I can grab anywhere in here and I can slice down and it'll slice those notes. And if I go the other way, I can make it go this way. Let's say I wanted this one high, I wanted this one lower, I wanted this one to go up, and I want this one to go the same length. I can do that. Or I can just slice down and slice back up, or slice down, slice back up. Or I can just click and just go across that way, or I can just click and go across that way. Pretty cool, huh? And if you drag up, you know, it'll drag all of them up at the same lengths that you need. So let's kind of level these out. And boom, yeah, now you have some velocity changes that you can actually do anytime you want to. So now let's say that this note here, I wanted to kind of duplicate it and bring it right next to it, right? Seeing that this one is actually highlighted and this is the section that it's going to take. So it's going to take this whole note. I can do a Control D on my keyboard and it'll duplicate that over. So that's Control and D, and that'll actually get it to duplicate over onto the track. It also works for, the whole section. If you want to do this section, it'll bring this all over. Just Control D. And as you see, it moved over and completed another section as well. I'm going to do a Control Z to get rid of that. All right, and let's go and let's actually remove all of this on here. All right, and now those are just to show you that, how to actually maneuver inside the piano roll. So now that we have a gist of what we are actually going to be doing, let's try to make something real quick. All right, I'm going to start at C5, and I'm going to do a whole note as you see up here. So I'm going to click on that C5. If you watch my chord code video, it'll tell you that a minor is 0-3-4 and a major is 0-4-3. So let's say I wanted to make a minor chord. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3 from this C. So 1, 2, 3, and this is the third note. So that's 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is a minor chord. Every time, anytime, that is a minor chord. If you wanted to make a major chord, you would count 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll move this up 1. 1, 2, 3. And that is the major chord. So the difference between major and minor is just this key here. And as you see, this 4 or 7th note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This 7 is always here. So on either note or either one, if you're doing a major or a minor, it's always going to be these two going to be the same. All right. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when you say we want to make another note on top of this, you go 1, 2, 3, because we're doing a 3 and a 4. So this one was 3. This one was 4. This one is 3. If you want to do one more, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a 4. All right. So let's keep this minor going. Let's go across. Let's go highlight all of them. And as you see, it has a section here. So I'm going to go Control D, and I'm duplicating them across. All right, so let's say we want to kind of stagger the notes. So I'm gonna click on this one here, and it's gonna highlight all of them as you see in the middle. So I'm gonna bring this one in, and I'm gonna bring the end in as well. So now we have this. Pretty simple. Nothing, too hard here to actually do. So what I want to do now is actually kind of cut up these bars a little bit more, so it'll make like a kind of weird sound. So I'm gonna hold down Alt. I'm just gonna start cutting on every 2 in these 16s. So if you're following along, just hold down Alt and look for your scissor tool and start cutting. All right. So now we have some cut up chords. All right, so now that we have that down, I want to show you how to actually use nudging inside of the piano roll. All right, so I'm gonna grab this last one. I'm gonna highlight all of them, right click and drag across them. What I'm about to do can only be done if you actually have a number pad on your keyboard. If I want to go up, I'm going to hit the number 8 on my keyboard. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as you see, it moved all of them up because they're highlighted, and I'm actually using the nudge feature to bring them up. If I wanted to move them down, I would hit the number 2 on the keyboard. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10. And that brings it down to where I want it to actually be. All right, so I'm gonna bring it back to the neutral point. I'm just hitting the number 8 on my number pad to go up, and now it is where it should be. And what I want to do is hold down Control on my keyboard and hit the number 8, And as you see, it jumped up a whole octave. And if I hit the number 2 while still holding down Control, it'll move it back down. Or I can move it down further by hitting the number 2 and holding down Control on my keyboard. So let's actually just move these down 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're following along, I'll just move it down 5 semitones. It's going to be in key because it's the circle of fifth. If you ever heard of it, that is what I'm doing right now. So I'm going to hit W on my keyboard and I'm going to play it. All right. So I want to actually make this into a loop. So I'm going to grab this little end here and I'm going to drag it across. And I'm going to hit on my loop here, or you can just hit L on your keyboard. So now let's say I wanted to kind of do like a little strum or kind of humanize these notes here up top, right? What I can do is actually hit the number 3 and it'll move it over slightly. I'm not sure if you even saw that. If I keep hitting the number 3, which I'm going to do, it'll move it over by 1 millisecond every time I hit that. Now, the number 1 will move it back 1. So now it's at the beginning. All right, and if you want to actually see those like in how Cakewalk does it, you can actually go into your preferences, or you can go to processes and go to the nudge. And as you see, it moves it over by 1, 2, and 3. And you have your up and down, and you have your settings if you want to do that as well. So if you want to remember that, it will be 3 moves over 1, 6 moves over 2, and 9 moves over 3. And 1 moves back 1, 4 moves back 2, and 7 moves back 3. So those are the numbers that you kind of want to remember when you're actually using those tools. So let's add a little bit of humanization in here. So I'm gonna hold down Control to connect this one as well. So I want all of them to be chosen, and I'm gonna move them over and bring them back. So it's not going over that line. And this is what it sounds like. So it gives it a nice little strum effect, really easy inside of Cakewalk. So I just want to show you guys some other things. I'm going to highlight all of these. I'm going to hit Control and I'm going to hit C on my keyboard to copy all of them. I'm going to go down to here to my strings and I'm going to do a Control and V, and voila, it is here. So I'm going to grab all of them and I'm going to move them up. I'm going to hit Control, hold on Control and hit the number 8, and it's going to drag it up an octave as you see here. I'm going to go to my bass and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hit Control and C, and I'm going to go to my bass, Control V. I'm going to highlight all of these and go down. All right. So like I was telling you guys before, I'm going to go on this clap, right? I click on the clap. As you see, it has no MIDI here. There's no velocity section down here. It's just blank. You can't do anything with it. You can't add audio into the piano roll, as I was telling you before. And that's why I have it muted, but I just wanted to show you guys what it actually looks like when you actually put the audio inside of the piano roll. And you can actually hide this. So if you ever want to get rid of this where it has the audio inside of the piano roll, even though you know it's not going to show, you can go over to View, and where it says Show Audio Tracks, you can uncheck this. And as you see, it removes the audio from the piano roll itself. I have no idea why, but I like to see the audio tracks on there, so I'll leave mine on there. So now that we're in this track pane part, I'm going to show you how it actually works. So this autofocus section allows you to focus on any instrument that you actually have on here. All I did was grab and drag down, or click, I should say, and drag down, and it's going to show all the ones that are actually selected in here. So seeing that all the pencils are highlighted, any one of these can be changed. So if I wanted to add another thing to the TTS1 piano, I can add a note there if I wanted to. So now let's say I wanted to add a note to the strings, which is up here. I clicked on that one that's actually strings. That's why I put them in different octaves so I can see them. And let's say I add a string here. So now you have a string there. And if I go down here and click, now I'm in the bass. And you have a bass note there. All right. So this is what the auto does. And I don't really like it because if I click on something and I wanted to actually add this note from the bass here, it'll switch it to the piano, and switch it to the bass. You know, it just doesn't have like a really nice consistency to it. But whatever it's focused on is what it'll actually do. All right, so I like to have it on this auto lock. And what the auto lock does is it allows you to still see all of them, but you can't like click it to actually choose or select that one. So I can actually add another note here if I wanted to for the piano. All right, so let me just delete those. All right, and as you see, you can see the ghost notes of all the channels in here. So if you want to be on this one, which is the piano, basically you just make sure all of these are clicked, and you can just kind of go down and choose which one you want to actually be on. And that's what the auto lock feature. And this filter gives you an option. Let's say I only wanted to see the piano and the strings. And I hit on this filter. It's only going to show those in this section here and also inside the piano roll. So that's what the filter actually does in there. And earlier I showed you, you can collapse this if you want to. I like to leave it open. Sometimes it might be a little shorter like this, and I don't really like this. I like to at least have my mute, solo, and record options. So if I wanted to record, I can just click on the record and record from here. And another great feature that it actually has in here is the option to snap to scale. So if I right click on here, this top one with the piano, I can right click on it. It's going to give me an option that says enable/disable snap to scale. So I can click on that and it's turned on. And now I can choose whatever note I want to choose. So seeing that we're on C, I'm going to leave it on C. And we did a minor, didn't we? So let's right click and we're going to go to scales. And we're going to go to diatonic scales and we're going to choose Aeolian, which is a natural minor. All right, and as you see, we are in the scale. So anything that's white is out of scale. It's not in the scale of C minor. So if I even tried to click on here and double click, as you see it put it on the note above. If I double click it, it's not going to allow me to actually do it. So even if I put the note in here and I tried to drag up, it's not going to allow me to put it on the wrong note. Which is a very, very nice feature if you're new to scales and chords and things like that. So this is a very, very great helper. But let me give you a bonus. Expand this inspector pane over here. And I'm going to scroll down here to where it says Midi. Right? I'm going to click on that. And as you see, it has a snap to scale setting here. And this is a lot easier for me. And this is why I usually choose to go this way. If you watch any of my videos or my lives, I usually go right here and you can turn it on and off right here with this button. It gives you an easier option to find out what note you want. And it gives you an easier option to find whatever scale you're looking for instead of coming completely out of it, which when you go over here and you select something, let's say I select this, you see it close down that window. Over here, I can just go and change it to C. I can change it to D. And it's not like affecting me that much where I can't see what's going on. All right. And just so you guys know that in this section, when you put up this MIDI, it gives you an option to do the snap to scale. It also gives you an input quantize. So if you hit on this, it'll give you an option. So if you're playing on your keyboard or you're doing the virtual keyboard, this virtual keyboard, you can hit Alt and 0, or you can go up to View, and go down to Virtual Controllers and hit Computer Keyboard, and this will bring up your keyboard as well. And you can just play from your typing keyboard. Oh, one string, that's why. All right, let's go back to here. And that'll give you an option to quantize if you're going to use the virtual keyboard in order to record. And it also gives you an option for ARP. And if you want to learn more about the arpeggiator, I do have a video showing you how to use the arpeggiator inside of Cakewalk. All right, and with all that being said, I'm glad you guys have been on this journey with me for the beginners. I hope you guys got something out of this video, or maybe learned something that you didn't know before. Thank you guys for actually viewing and staying with me with this channel. If you have any questions or concerns, definitely leave them below in the comment section. You know I will get back to you on those. I think I answer almost every question that is actually posted in the comment section. If you haven't already, definitely like. If you haven't already, definitely subscribe. Definitely hit the bell notification, and that will let you guys know when I drop another video like this. All right, and with that being said, it's your boy X.E.L.O. Until the next time, people. Peace.